Call the regular meeting of September 27th at the Lake Charles Harbor and Terminal District to order. If everyone would please stand. Dear Lord, we ask your blessing on the board and port and the people who depend upon it. We ask you, guide this board in our decisions, that they are for the good of those that we serve. We ask your blessings on our neighbors to the east who just suffered from the recent hurricane. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Prudhomme, lead us in the pledge.
Please repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The public comment procedure, the board encourages public comment and questions regarding all agenda items. Persons wishing to do so should complete a speaker's card, which is at the entrance of the boardroom. When speaking or asking a question on an agenda item, one should, in addition to completing the card, come to the microphone, be recognized, and provide your name, address, and phone number. Comments by individuals will be limited to 3 minutes. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce Mr. Kevin Guidry, our newest board member that's at his first regular meeting tonight, so welcome aboard, Kevin.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thank you.
First item of business is approval of the August 23rd regular meeting minutes and September 16, 21 special meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Darbone.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lorenzi. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Submission 2021-039, authorizing executive director to enter into an early termination agreement with Dong Song International for industrial Park East site. Mr. Self.
Yes, sir. Dong Sung Fintech has leased a facility at our industrial park east for years. They were, it's a company that does cryogenic insulation, which is used in the LNG process, LNG facilities. They have had a downturn in their projects. They just haven't seen a lot of work, and they've asked for some relief and to terminate their lease a little bit early. As it stands, their lease is scheduled to terminate September of 2022. They have proposed to continue paying the monthly rent for the remainder of 2021, and then a lump sum termination for 2022 in the amount of $167,000.
Enrique, we have future plans for that site.
We do, which would be in line with what was proposed in the strategic plan.
Okay, do I have a motion on submission 2021-39?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Submission 2021-040, authorizing the district to amend the professional service agreement with CSRS. Mr. Self.
Sure. As you're aware, CSRS has been working alongside the port, helping us with our FEMA compliance. When we did the original authorization in 2020 for CSRS, it always contemplated that we would have to come back to the board requesting further authorization to continue. This proposal will get us through approximately March, April of 2023. We'll also leave a remainder. As you're aware, we get reimbursed a certain percentage from FEMA to go toward reimbursing us for our cost to have CSRS do FEMA compliance on our behalf. So I'll gladly try to answer any questions you may have. We also have Glenn on standby, or he's going to join us by Zoom if you have any questions. And we have Chris here also.
Chris Sullivan's here also. I'll need a motion to accept 2021-040.
Make that motion.
Mr. Darbone moves.
I'll second.
Mr. Lorenzi, second. discussion? Mr. Pellegrin, would you like to speak?
I have a question.
Ms. McClary?
Just to be clear, this will bring us to the maximum amount for the 5% reimbursement, is that?
No, we'll still have approximately $300,000 remaining after this authorization.
But that is what we are basically fronting the money. We're making the money available to pay the invoices from CSRS while we are awaiting FEMA reimbursement on the 5%.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
But
Okay.
this authorization won't fully utilize the dollar amount that we project in total projects. So if you multiply the 5% by the total projects, it just doesn't fully utilize the full amount that we could be reimbursed from FEMA.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any way to project when the reimbursement actually can be anticipated?
We have started getting some reimbursements already.
So is this revolving, or can this be considered a revolving appropriation?
Yeah, I mean, as it stands right now, and I'll speak, Cameron, you correct me, Glenn, Chris, anybody else. We currently have about $3.9 million that have been, it's called eligible obligated, which means it's out of FEMA's hands and it's in the state's hands. So we're waiting to get reimbursed because the money is going to come from the state through FEMA, or come from FEMA through the state. So we're just waiting on the state at this point right now to reimburse us our $3.9 million. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
So this doesn't necessarily mean it's all new money. Is that fair? Doesn't necessarily mean this is all new money.
I'm not sure what you mean by new money.
Well, in other words, some money's already been expended, but
Oh, yes,
There's
yes. We have spent approximately cash out the door, what would you say, Nick?
About 13 million.
About 13 million total.
but so you said some reimbursement's already being received?
We've received a couple of $100,000, and through this process, through the FEMA process, one of the things that delayed it a bit was we had to go through this process of determining what portion of our damages were from Hurricane Laura and Hurricane Delta were business interruption and which portion was property damage. And that took a while. But it was an important step because it affects the amount we get reimbursed from FEMA. And so that did slow the process a bit.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have
Ms. McClary?
So the $3+ million that you're referring to, that's from this report, eligible, obligated, is that what that is? And that means that is what we know presently has been approved by FEMA?
Yes. That's correct, Cameron?
Yes.
It's 3.9, you talking about the 3.9 million?
That's just the amount that has already gone through, basically. FEMA has a grants portal. That's the amount that's already gone through that, been approved by FEMA and pushed to GOSEP, who then has to review it as well, and then that's when we'd get the money from them.
And the GOSEP, as you're aware, is the state entity.
Correct.
Okay. And so does that equate to the 22 projects that are in this damage inventory obligated? Is that where that number comes from on this chart? I mean,
You're talking about the 18%?
Yeah, the 18%. So it's 22 projects? Or,
Yes, ma'am. That's the 22 projects.
Okay, that's the 3.877.
I just heard Glenn chime in, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? No other questions? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carried. Submission 2021-041, certifying compliance with the public bid law on the Seymour pre-construction advertising for bursts 2, 3, and 2 and 3 rehabilitation at City Docks. Mr. Self.
Yes, sir. At the August board meeting, the staff requested you approve awarding the guarantee max price to the project, Berth 2 and 3 project, to Bow Brothers. Porch Priority has a process that they require, and this is kind of one of the check-the-box items that we have to go through. And this is just certifying that we have followed the public bid laws associated with the Seymour project.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Ms. McClary makes a motion.
Second.
Mr. Dixon, second. Any other discussion? No discussion. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Submission 2021-042, authorizing the district to amend the 2021-18 professional service agreement for construction management at risk, construction services with Cajun Industries. Mr. Self.
Yes, sir. This is a Seymour project for berths 4, 5, and 6. What this does, as y'all are aware, based on the project from the 2 and 3 project, the contractor and the engineer work side by side along the way in an effort to develop a guaranteed max price. At that point, the port would then make a decision as to whether or not to accept the guaranteed max price or to reject it. But one of the benefits of having a Seymour project is, typically, and Nick, jump in at any point, typically what happens is you have an engineer that comes in and designs the project, the documents go out, the contractor then submits bids for the project, and then they say, well, if y'all had done this, this, and this, we could have saved you money. Well, the Seymour project, they work side by side to develop that guaranteed max price. What this does is allow Cajun Industries to do the pile testing early for the 4, 5, and 6 project, to come up with what they think, how long the piles need to be, the number of piles they'll need, such as that. And our engineer for this is, I believe, Moffitt Nickel on this one. And they've determined that the cost by Cajun Industries is reasonable for the pile testing.
I make a motion, we approve it.
Mr. Dixon moves.
I'll second.
Mr. Lorenzi seconds. Discussion. I have some questions on it, and I've spoke with staff about it, spoke with Nick. As y'all are all aware, we're reevaluating the overall capital projects that are facing us and looking at cash flow. And this is a big project, and while Mr. Self's correct that you need to have the test pilings of what length pilings you need before you put a final price on it. We're in the pre-construction design service phase of it, and there's existing data, as I understand from Nick, at berths 2 and 3 that we used in the Bow Brothers project. So what I've asked staff is if we could postpone this maybe 30 days while we evaluate, one, the capital projects that we're talking about, and secondly, I think there is looking at the possibility of putting some called temporary sheds, some rug buildings to accommodate the need at 3, 4, and 5 for the covered storage, which is the biggest need. And this is $1 million, and it's on a project that's down the road, and I would like to have a little more opportunity to discuss it with staff in conjunction with the overall capital project, and maybe wait another month before we take action on this. And you can chime in.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. You and I discussed it. I just want to point out the one big delay would be, just delaying it 30 days will delay the final design about 30 days as well. So just trying to expedite the repairs, that would be the issue I see.
I'm sorry, Nick, I have
I'm sorry. Talking about that, delaying 30 days will just delay the final design package as well. It would push everything 30 days, the final design for the overall project.
And when were they supposed to have the final design?
We're projected right now for April 2022.
April of 2022, so if we
Yes,
push
sir.
it 30 days, it'd be May 2022. And
Yes, sir.
by that time, we should have had ample time to discuss our overall capital projects and what we go forth with. So I don't see a downside to postpone it 30 days. I'd like to, if the chair can the chair make a motion?
You need to make a substitute motion to table until the next board meeting,
Okay.
I'm assuming. If you want to have it on the agenda for the next board meeting, just table it for a definite date, or you can table it indefinitely. That's your prerogative. But it would need to be a substitute motion because there's been a motion in a second.
I'm fine tabling it to the next board meeting and give us time to discuss it if,
For what purpose? I mean, we're only talking about a month here.
and
Yeah, I
$1 million.
mean- Huh?
And $1 million.
At $1 million, you're gonna pay $1 million now or $1 million a month from now? Or not do it at all?
Well-
But the only thing the man's doing is finding out about driving pilings into where our washers are gonna be benefiting.
Right. But it's on a capital project, Mr. Dixon, that we're having discussions on as to when the timing of that project would actually happen.
And you think a month is gonna do what?
I think a month would give time to discuss with staff what the timing of those projects are gonna be, those capital projects.
Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
I don't know if this might be appropriate for Cameron and for Nick, and maybe CSRS. So 4, 5, and 6 are in the list, I'm assuming, for FEMA reimbursement.
Yes, ma'am.
And so do we know where they are in that mix? How far along is that in terms of, there's so many
So-
stages to this, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Do we know?
So
is
4,
land
5.
available somewhere out there?
I'm not sure exactly where it falls on Glenn's list, but 4, 5, and 6 is what we call the 50% rule. So it was so severely damaged that it would cost more to repair it than would to actually replace the building itself.
Okay.
So those require an additional step of having to get approval from both FEMA, and then it goes to the state as well. Did you find?
It's pending CRC
It-
development.
So right now, it's pending CRC review.
So would this study, would that be something that might be helpful? Or would it, where would that, I don't know. Just tell me what.
No, ma'am, not the pilot testing. So the pilot testing would just be for the design, the construction design, So for as far as the FEMA building and everything, that's already progressing down its path.
So delaying this project is not going to impact, because I had a conversation with Cameron, so
Right.
now I'm confused.
Delaying the overall project could impact your FEMA funding, yes.
Okay, but in order to proceed with the project, do we need to have a piling study, whatever it is?
Yes, ma'am.
First? So,
To proceed with the dock construction.
Final
And
dock
FEMA's
construction.
not reimbursing that, they're reimbursing the sheds, correct?
Not at this time. We are going to pursue the foundation design as well, so.
Okay.
But yes, we're going to start with the building and then progress to that study.
so there is no downside from the FEMA aspect if this is delayed a month?
Not a
Cameron?
I wouldn't think a month would,
Don't think so.
not a month. If we push the whole project further down the road, there could be some
How about
issues
6
with-
months?
6 months could cause some issues, just because FEMA funding does have to have
So
time
what-
limits.
What would be your cutoff date?
That would be a
I don't
question
know.
for Glenn.
Huh?
Yeah,
But I guess the answer is
6
1
months?
month isn't gonna,
yeah.
1 month isn't gonna
Not gonna affect FEMA
the
reimbursement.
FEMA reimbursement on this project. 1 month delay. 6 months,
There's a
we
chance.
can't answer that question.
Well, let me put it a different way. So you're saying you don't see anything in the next 30 days, if we don't do this, proceed with this, at least get it started? I mean, I'm sure we're not going to approve it tonight and it'll start tomorrow. Well, let me ask you that, Nick. How long does it take from the time we approve it till this is completed?
They actually have a schedule included in the submission. Right now, they plan to have the pilot testing complete by January 16th, I believe, 17th. So, and that's just because they have to mobilize a marine barge and everything to get it here. So we won't have the data finalized until that time, and we would need that data before we can finalize the design. That's where I got into it would delay everything about 30 days. We would just be pushing everything back.
So we're assuming if they, instead of having it done in January of '22, it would be.
February 22. That's right.
And that does not impact what CSRS is doing in terms of trying to get some kind of hurricane relief on this project?
It should not at this time.
Is there a chance that the price would go up in another month?
Yes, sir, there is. Just because of timing of mobilizing contractors, there's always that possibility.
Okay. Is this your recommendation?
The submission is, yes, sir, my recommendation.
sorry?
The submission is my recommendation.
Is to do it now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Did you get a second?
No, I didn't get a second.
You need to make a motion, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me.
Yeah, I made a motion to table it for 30
Substitute
days,
motion.
substitute
No,
motion.
you can't make a motion. Somebody else can make a motion.
I think he
No,
can.
the chair will make a motion, Mr. Dixon. And that's my motion, I don't have a second yet.
Okay.
Well, we had discussion on it, so I'll second it, so that we can have discussion.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I think we had discussion on the first motion, but any discussion on the second motion to table it?
How about a roll call
All those
vote?
in favor, aye?
Wait, what are we voting on now?
Yeah,
Voting on
we're
the
going to vote.
substitute motion.
There's been a substitute motion to table for 30 days. It's been seconded. Mr. Dixon just requested a roll call vote. And so the motion on the floor is to table it for 30 days and bring it back up at the next meeting.
Okay, roll call vote.
Ms. McCrary?
No.
Mr. Dixon?
No.
Mr. Lorenzi?
Yes.
Mr. Primo?
I don't vote unless there's a tie.
Yeah.
Mr. Prudhomme?
Yes.
Mr. Darvall?
Yeah.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
4-2, the motion passes to delay.
Okay, motion passes 4-2. Next item, submission 2021-043, authorizing executive director to enter into a professional service agreement with Booz Navarre to assist with the design, review, and inspection of commissioning of two bulk material loaders for BT1. Mr. Self?
Yes, Booz Navarre has worked with us alongside Nick and the rest of the staff ever since Hurricane Laura damaged all of our loaders and unloaders. In fact, they were here, I think, probably 2 days after the hurricane, working alongside. In fact, I think one of them, Brad, slept in the office here because there was no place else to go. Regardless, we're in the process, as you're aware, we ordered 2 of the loaders, I think at the July meeting. And what this does is authorize us to enter into an agreement with Booz Navarre for the design, review, third-party inspection, and commissioning of the 2 loaders.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve 2021-043.
Mr. Darvall moves. Second. Second by Mr. Prudhomme. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Submission 2021-045, approving the support of resuming federal offshore leasing in the Gulf of Mexico. Mr.
I think
Self.
we did do four.
Yeah, you missed one, Mr. President.
I sure did. 2021-044, authorizing the district to accept the proposal and enter into a contract with Dynamic Non-Destructive Testing for structural inspection services on the spiral vader at City Dock.
Yes, as you're aware, Hurricane Laura destroyed one of the spiral vaders and badly damaged a second. It's been determined through Bouge Navarre that the second one is potentially repairable. And what we need to do to properly assess that is have the welds and the structure assessed, and they'll do x-rays on the weld, and that will go a long way in determining how much it's going to cost overall to repair the spiral vader.
Okay, do I have a motion? Mr. Doggone?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve.
You want to go ahead and make the motion on this one?
Might as well.
Yeah. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Prudham. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Now submission 2021-45, approving the support of the resuming of federal offshore leasing in the Gulf of Mexico. Mr. Self.
Yes, sir. The Department of Interior has canceled a lot of the offshore leasing. And what this does is simply we're asking the Biden administration to begin leasing offshore for oil and gas exploration, which will help out not only Southwest Louisiana, but the whole state.
And Mr. Self, we're not the only industry that's making this input.
No, sir. Port of Fourchon, Port of St. Bernard, and I think Port of Cameron.
Yes,
Are they-
it's on their agenda. I don't know if it was on their agenda last
To
time.
consider. Fourchon's on it. The Ports Association of Louisiana has supported it, and Port of St. Bernard has already done similar resolutions.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. McClary moves. Second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Can I ask,
Excuse me.
what, is there any contradictory impact of this in terms of the work that's being done relative to the wind energy?
No, sir.
I understand the purpose of this, but
I think it's a balanced approach. To be honest with you, I think using wind energy and offshore oil and gas is a more balanced approach.
And just to give the board some background, the Biden administration placed a moratorium on offshore leasing. A federal judge blocked that. Since that time, the Biden administration has begun to lease offshore, starting in October, is what they said. The people that requested this asked us to still send in this letter of support because we just want to support the offshore industry in the state of Louisiana because this seems to keep happening. So this is just a letter of support asking for the continued leasing of the offshore oil leases.
Mr. Ringo, is it true that that was a Louisiana federal judge that made that ruling?
I believe that's right. Yes, ma'am.
It's a United States federal judge.
Right. Yes.
A
Article
United
3
States
judge,
federal
just to
judge
be clear.
that resides in Louisiana, has that,
That's correct. But an Article 3 judge.
for the clarification.
Any other questions? No?
no.
Okay, no other question. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. August 2021 financial briefings.
Yes, Mr. President. Starting with the operating statement budget to actual comparison for August 31st, 2021. The port generated revenues of $3.1 million, which was slightly favorable to budget. That's primarily due to some lease revenue increases. One, the new long-term agreement with Driftwood, a restructured agreement with one of our customers, and a considerable payment in accommodation for a contract termination. A lot of that revenue, that favorable revenue, was offset by lower than expected petroleum coke, which we've seen for a good portion of the year, and the associated revenues. Expenses, we had $3.6 million in expenses, which is $300,000 favorable. Part of that's due to lower than projected expenses resulting from improvements in processing due to the mobile harbor crane and lower than expected petroleum coke. Non-operating revenues and expenses were $100,000, which is actually $100,000 unfavorable, and that's only due to the timing of the payment of the port's contribution to McNeese and Suella. EBITDA was $700,000, and we generated cash flow of about $800,000. Onto the balance sheet, our cash went down $18.1 million due to many of the same reasons as we've seen in the past: hurricane expenses, our contribution to the public-private partnership, property insurance premium, and our funds for the self-insured retention that we've actually moved to restricted cash. So in that case, restricted cash went up $10.4 million due to our self-insured retention and due to the public-private partnership. We're holding the funds on behalf of that. Those funds are restricted. Trades accounts receivable went up $3.7 million, again due to the recording of the receivable for our FEMA reimbursement. Fixed assets went up $9 million due to the mobile harbor crane being completed, railroad trestle project, and multiple hurricane-related building projects being completed. Construction in progress is up $700,000 due to ongoing hurricane projects, and it was kind of offset by some of the projects that we've completed and now moved to fixed assets. Current liabilities are up $2.7 million due to the funds on behalf of the public-private partnership, and it was partially offset by payments we've made on hurricane payables. Long-term debt went down $1.2 million due to our payment on the outstanding bonds, and the remaining items did not significantly change. Any questions? Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, no questions. Administration, Finance, and Security, Cameron?
Yes, sir. As mentioned earlier when we were talking about CSRS, we actually have received roughly $265,000 of the money that has been obligated from FEMA GOSEP. And also earlier this month, the port received $12.9 million of the remaining $25.5 million in insurance proceeds and was notified that we should expect to receive the remaining $12.6 million by the end of the week. So, that's it. Thank you.
Questions? Navigation, Channing?
Commissioners, in addition to my report, I've got three things I'd like to note. Even though Hurricane Ida did not impact our area very much in the days leading up to the storm's landfall, we were sort of uncertain where it was going to go, so the Harbor Safety Committee meeting was rescheduled till October the 6th, so it'll be handled next week. The Corps has advised us that they've awarded a $22.4 million contract to begin rebuilding disposal area D in Calcasieu Lake. This is the first step in expanding that disposal area out to the rocks that we've discussed at this meeting several meetings ago. And finally, the members of the Lake Charles Maritime Community has had its virtual meeting with General Holland, the commander of the Mississippi Valley Division, and her staff to discuss the FY22 and FY23 funding needs of the channel. So this, late as it is, completes our program for pursuing funding for FY22. As you know, the President's budget is only $20 million in O&M for the Calcasieu Ship Channel. We need $35 million, so we will continue to be talking to our congressional representatives and the Corps of Engineers on how to make up that $15 million deficit. That concludes my report, unless you all have some questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Operations, Todd, I guess you're going to do cargo and trade with Terrence?
Yeah, I can handle any of that if y'all have any questions about it.
Yeah.
So currently, currently at the city docks right now, we've got a liquid transfer going on, reverse lightering operation. The Iraqi rice ship is still working. We have a wind tower ship that should start discharging today. They just finished another one, a coke ship and a calcine ship at BT1. The past few weeks, we've discharged a barite ship at BT1, loaded 3 calcine barges, and unloaded a rutile ship. At City Docks, we loaded a bag rice ship for the Dominican Republic, loaded IFG terminals, loaded 2 bulk rice shipments, had 2 reverse lightering ships, a lumber ship, and a wind tower shipment. Moving forward, we're looking at a rutile ship at BT1, a green coke ship, and at City Docks, more hydrate barges, and 2 more lumber shipments. If you have any questions about Therence and stuff, I'll try to answer those too.
Is the movement of the wind tower segments through town going okay, or are you getting any blowback?
I haven't had any complaints
Okay.
directed my way.
I'm sorry?
I have not either.
I only asked because I had, yesterday I had a run-in with, where they were moving one down Sallier and making that turn on Ryan.
Yes, sir.
And they were moving everybody out of the way, and, there were some unhappy people. It wasn't a big deal, but
Right. Yeah, it's an issue at that intersection. We have to
Yeah.
close that off.
I just didn't know whether it resulted in complaints or calls or anything of that nature. I'm just glad to hear that it hasn't been a problem.
No, sir, not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank God
Todd.
for small favors.
Thank you, Todd. Engineering, maintenance, and development, Nick?
Sorry. The small hurricane repair projects are largely complete, with mainly the large projects still left to repair, and those involve detailed engineering design and construction, so they'll much larger and longer schedules. Our 2 new ship loaders are progressing through the design process. As you'll remember, ship loader 4 had an expedited delivery timeline, so it's working very quickly, but it is progressing nicely. We received our new telestacker this past week, and actually received the remaining parts yesterday, so our temporary calcine loading and rutile unloading will hopefully improve with our new telestacker. And last week we were informed that we officially have our state project number for our port priority project for 4, 5, and 6 for the $14 million that was awarded there. We have also begun to receive information from our consultant on the offshore wind study that we were speaking about for the industrial canal. So we're getting that information now and having to go through the review of the first drafts. And I'll answer any other questions.
Okay, thank you, Nick. State lobbyists report, anything on that, John, that needs to be?
Just what's in the report, sir. I don't know of anything else.
Could I ask a question on that? Jenny, can you address this issue about abandoned? It was mentioned in the state lobbyist report about the abandoned and derelict ships. Is that something that I think you've had some discussion?
We're trying to get a handle on that, Ms. McClary. As far as I know, the state has no program that will officially address this issue. What we have done on the Calcasieu Ship Channel is the pilots have identified all of the unmoored or poorly moored vessels, shrimp boats, these barges or shrimp barges, these kinds of things, so that when a hurricane is approaching, Coast Guard can go out and try and contact the owners to have them move everything above. They try and do mile 18, and they issued during the last storm, Ida, that when they set the hurricane conditions, they ordered all unattended vessels to move above mile 18 to seek safe harbor. That's what we've been able to do so far, but as far as the state program, I know of none. And we've tried to look at that, and they doesn't seem to have one.
Any other questions? Okay, any other matters come before the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion for executive session.
I move.
Mr. Lorenzi moves. Second. Mr. Prudham, second. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes
Aye.
have it. We'll be going into executive session.